So I'm going to show you how I do leaf cleanup. You can see by the trees, not all the leaves have fallen yet, but I'm just trying to get it manageable because if they all fall at once, then it's just too much to clean up at one time. So I'm going to go in through here, getting the leaves off the main part of the yard, also cleaning out my gutters because they're full, and the leaves, kind of up on the top of the roof. So you can see them kind of back there. It's just depending where the trees are, is how dense it is. But you kind of see the edge. You see my gutters are full, so I need to clean them out as well. So I'm going to kind of walk through how I do it, kind of the steps of moving from getting into a manageable place, and depending how you mulch them or what you do. So the first thing I do is clean out the gutters, just because usually it's pretty full. I have a pitch on my roof isn't too bad, but right here over the driveway, it's steep, so I'd rather just do it with a ladder than climbing up there. The rest of my roof is kind of flat, so I can climb up there. I wouldn't recommend you always do it, but you can see what a mess it's just already starting to do. But yeah, if you haven't climbed up on your roof before, you may just not do this step or get somebody else to do it, just depending what it is. So you can see mine is not very steep, and I've done it plenty of times. But you can see there's leaves up there, and depending on the surface, it might be slippery. So really what I'm going to work on again is working from the highest point. So I've got another area up a little bit higher, the second story there, where I get it, and just essentially just trying to get it as far down so you're not repeatedly blowing the same leaves. So here I'm up in the second story. You can see it's pretty dangerous up here. I'm 30 feet up from the ground, but it's not too bad. So I'm just blowing it off the shingles, off the gutters, and just trying to move it down to the next level. Then I move down to the next level and blow that down again, obviously down to the house, and then some. You can see I've done a little bit of piles. You can see down there in the yard, but I'll get through the whole process here. But you can see what a mess it's making for you have to do. So just kind of looking over the areas, different areas. So I have an outdoor building there. I have the pool. So there's a lot of concrete that way that I have to clear out. You can see some of the trees facing this way, so it's still coming down again, just trying to make it manageable. But this is the point where you usually have to do it like 2 or 3 times during the year to try doing it all at once. I have this rubber roof, or this EPDM roof, so I can clean this off. Again, just pushing it from the highest towards the gutters, and then pushing it down. Some of those little gully kind of areas that it kind of attaches, just speed it up here. I'm not actually running this fast, but I'm sure you know that. And so again, just pushing it down. Sometimes you have branches, things like that. If you've ever cleaned out your gutters before, this is all kind of just normal things as you've done before. But you see, I left this kind of late, so the gutters were really packed in here, or with leaves. So I'm having to really push them around, go all the way around. And I have a lot of corners to deal with in mine. But eventually I just got it all down. I had these little catches where it catches some of the leaves, so just cleaning those out, just making sure there's none in the vertical, especially when you blew it, some it went down. But you can see what a giant mess this makes, especially when you have bushes or you have your Halloween decorations up. Again, I'm going to be doing it another time, probably one more time during the year, so I'm not having to do it perfect, but I'm just trying to get as much as out of the way as I can. So cleaning it off of here, make sure you get out of the bushes. I'll use my more powerful backpack blower to get it out of the bushes at this point, but just trying to get a little bit, just because for anything that's fallen. But I usually like to do it as little as possible with these with the heavier blower, just because I don't like blowing the mulch out everywhere and then having to do that during the spring. It just depends how much work you want to make for yourself. The corners are always a little bit tough getting out under the bushes. You can see if you have ground cover, it gets stuck in there. So just try to, as best can, just kind of get out of there. Sometimes you have to use a rake or more powerful blower just to get it out there. So I'm working again from the roof down next to the house, and then pushing it away from the house because I'm trying to get the biggest parts away. And while I'm here, might as well. It's getting cold. This is it's before Halloween, so it's not that cold yet, but might as well winterize, get any liquid out of there. So again, now just moving it away from the house. So the goal is to try to get it into piles, but into bigger areas where it's easier to manage. So I'm not blowing everything with the smaller blower like this. I've got a push behind, so it really depends how big your yard is, how many leaves you have, how much effort you want. So there's some diminishing return here, how deep you make the piles. At some point, it just the more you push it, the more that they're just compacting. You're not moving them around. So I like moving, kind of making long lines. So as you're pushing it, if you want to kind of hold this line there, so you're constantly pushing them. Like I said, I have these little culverts, and makes it nice to blow them into there because they kind of get held by the other side. So it makes a nice collection area. And it really depends on your community or your county. Do you have, some have vacuum trucks that come by, you can do that. Other ones you have to put into bags. So it really depends. Mine, I don't have any of that, so I have to collect everything. So I'm working in the back here again on the concrete. Sometimes it's a little bit easier like this, but I'm just working it away from all the trees and bushes, and then that way I can manipulate the leaves a little bit better and get them bagged or use rakes, or I'm actually going to mulch them up. So being able to use the little tools like the little blower, things like that, just to get it away from all the obstacles, and then move to the larger and larger tools and be able to push the leaves more at a time. That's kind of the way I work. So here I finally got it away from everything. So this is the leaf blower that I have that's attached to my engine attachment here. So I can, again, it's away from the house. Now I can start pushing them a lot more and kind of moving them into much larger piles. So I'm just kind of working back and forth here. If you don't have this, you can just, you might have to use a rake, you might have to use a small blower, but I have a lot of leaves here, so it takes quite a bit of effort here. So again, I'm not doing it perfectly, because you'll see as I progress, the leaves just continue falling, but I'm just trying to do best effort here to try to get as much as I can done and out of the way, so when it may do the final time, not having to deal with like a foot deep of leaves, and it's just too hard to manage. So right now what I'm doing is just pushing them into a large pile here as best I can. I like just doing a long pile. So you may be able to move this. So some people I've seen put a tarp down, and then you get to a place and you just rake it on the tarp, and then you can use the tarp to move it to a final place. The way I do is I mulch it, and I can move the mulcher. It's actually a chipper shredder, but I can move it to where the leaves are, so I don't have to constantly move the leaves. So again, if you're putting the leaves in a bag, this I think is the most difficult, because you have to put it in there, and they just take up so much space because there's so much air that you have to continuously compact them. So you can see I'm kind of making these long rows of leaves. So again, depending on what you do, this may be your first option, and then you may be piling them. I usually do this, and then I make them into slightly smaller piles. But this is what I do. I have a chipper shredder here, and it's on wheels, so I can move it. So what I do, again, is I have that long set of leaves, and then I just use the rake upside down, and it makes it pretty easy. And it limits the amount of bending over and having to lift, which I find is always hard with putting it into bags. This way I can just lift up these leaves, and I waited because it hadn't rained in a couple weeks, so it was nice and dry. So I'm able to they're all really light, and it actually makes pretty quick work of it. And I didn't have to blow all the leaves, all into one place. I can just, again, pack them up like this, compact them. And so you can see I'll be able to take this whole huge pile, which may have taken several bags of to fill it up. I can mulch them up, and it mulches it like, 10-to-1, 8-to-1, something really into really small bits that you can then put into the bag. So I have to check every once in a while just to see how compacted it is, because I don't want to overdo it and it's making a big mess. But again, I can take this whole pile, mulch it up, and then put it in a bag, and then I don't have to try to be putting it into the bag, pressing down the leaves or compacting them, putting it in, compacting it, constantly doing it over and over like this, just to be able to work a little bit easier. Again, it's leaves are really light, especially because they were dried after a couple weeks of no rain. So this is my final one here. I can see it's kind of full. Yep, I need to turn it off. So this is kind of the hassle of it, is that it fills up pretty quickly, especially when you have these large piles. And so you have to shut the engine off, otherwise it's blowing out, and then take off the bag and then empty it, then put the bag on. But it's just depends on the effort of what you want to do. Some of these I'm bagging, other ones I can dump into my woods. So this is the easiest function for me. So you can see it really, the chipper shredder really mulches it up into really compact small pieces that can go into the bag at a much higher rate. And I have to push them down. You can see it's already dusty, obviously, and it's even more when I'm trying to push full leaves. You can see it was a really windy day today. You see these pieces just going all over the place. So that's another thing you might want to try to do it on a not windy day. It wasn't too bad when I'm doing this, or when I'm doing the moving the leaves around. But if you're trying to blow them and they're blowing up in the air and then they're blowing everywhere, it makes it a little more difficult. Because I took that one large pile and compacted it into, even it was like 3/4 of the bag. And so I'm not really picky when you saw me, I was just kind of dumping the leaves in there, because you just have to wait till the end part here. So it's just last, and that's why I finally get the rake out, just clean up the last little bits. Again, you can see the leaves actually dropping off the leaf or off the trees. So I just move it out of the way, get the rest bit, just the final cleanup. But again, it's not having to be perfect right now. But it obviously makes it a lot easier than using a rake the whole time and doing this manually. But it was still a lot to do. So you see that I was cleaning up the middle part, but I still have that long line that I did in the culvert, and I just kind of push them into easy piles, and then I just move the chipper shredder right to each one of those piles, empty it if it's one large pile, or multiple bags that I have to go through. But I found this is the easiest way for me. Again, because I don't have leaf pickup or anything like that, other than I would have to bag it myself, and then it would be like 100 bags, I think, for mine. So this was just the easiest way, just to mulch it up with, again, the least amount of effort and cleanup, and it helps.